Imagine uncovering an object so strange, so utterly out of place, that it makes even the most seasoned archaeologists stop in their tracks. In the summer of 1936, deep within the ruins of a 2,000-year-old temple in Iraq, workers stumbled upon a small clay jar. Inside, a set of ancient batteries, yes, batteries complete with copper cylinders and iron rods, sealed with asphalt. These artifacts, now known as the Baghdad Batteries, shouldn't have existed. They predate the modern battery by over 1,000 years, leaving experts scratching their heads. How could such advanced technology exist in a time when history tells us humanity was still figuring out the basics? This is just one of countless mysteries hiding in the shadows of our past, waiting to be unraveled. History books paint a clear picture of human progress, a steady march from primitive tools to modern marvels. But what if that story isn't as neat as we've been taught? Scattered across the globe are artifacts that don't fit the timeline, objects that defy logic, challenge science, and whisper secrets of lost knowledge. From intricate mechanisms that track the stars with uncanny precision to carvings depicting creatures no human could have seen, these relics suggest that ancient civilizations might have known far more than we give them credit for. Every unexplained artifact is a puzzle piece, and when we try to force it into the picture we've built, it just won't fit. That's where the real adventure begins. Today, we're diving into 25 of the most baffling ancient artifacts ever discovered, each one a doorway to questions without answers. Who created them? How were they used? And most tantalizing of all, what does their existence mean for our understanding of history? Some of these objects hint at forgotten technologies, while others seem to point to encounters with the impossible. One thing's for certain, by the time we're done, you'll never look at the past the same way again. So settle in, because we're about to journey through time, dust off the mysteries buried by centuries, and ask the boldest question of all: what if we've been wrong about our ancestors all along? Beneath the crystal-clear waters off the coast of the Greek island of Antikythera, sponge divers made a discovery in 1900, and one that would rewrite history. Amid the wreckage of a 2,000-year-old Roman cargo ship, they pulled up a corroded lump of bronze, unremarkable at first glance. But when archaeologists carefully chipped away the centuries of incrustation, they uncovered something astonishing. A complex clockwork device of interlocking gears, precision cut with a level of craftsmanship that shouldn't have existed for another millennium. This was the Antikythera Mechanism, a relic so advanced that scholars initially struggled to believe it was real. The more researchers studied it, the more mind-bending it became. X-rays and advanced imaging revealed over 30 meshing bronze gears, arranged like the inner workings of a modern mechanical clock. But this wasn't just a timekeeper, it was a celestial calculator. Turn the handle and the delicate machinery would predict solar eclipses, track the movements of the 5 known planets, and even account for the irregular orbit of the moon. It was a portable cosmos, a miniature universe crafted in bronze, capable of forecasting astronomical events decades in advance with pinpoint accuracy. What makes this artifact truly baffling isn't just its complexity, it's the timing. The Antikythera Mechanism dates back to around 87 BC, a time when most of Europe was still using simple sundials. Nothing rivaling its sophistication would appear again until the 14th century, when the first mechanical clocks emerged in medieval cathedrals. So how did ancient Greeks, without the benefit of modern tools or mathematical notation, engineer such a masterpiece? Some theorize it was the work of legendary inventors like Archimedes or Hipparchus, whose lost writings hinted at mechanical marvels. Others wonder if it was part of a larger tradition of forgotten technologies, knowledge that vanished with the collapse of ancient civilizations. Perhaps the most haunting question isn't how they built it, but why we've found only one. Was this device a unique treasure, or were there others like it, lost to time? the Antikythera Mechanism forces us to reconsider everything we thought we knew about the ancient world. It's a whisper from the past, a reminder that history's timeline might be far more mysterious and far more advanced than we ever imagined. While the Antikythera Mechanism reveals the astonishing technical prowess of the ancient world, another artifact poses an entirely different kind of mystery, one written in a language no one can read. Hidden away in the vaults of Yale University's Voynich Library lies the Voynich Manuscript, a book so perplexing that it's been called the most unreadable document in history. Discovered in 1912 by a Polish book dealer named Wilfrid Voynich, this bizarre medieval codex is filled with 240 pages of flowing, handwritten text in an alphabet that doesn't match any known language. But the words are only half the puzzle. Flip through its delicate vellum pages and you'll find lavish illustrations of plants that don't exist, nude women bathing in green liquid, and intricate zodiac wheels mapping celestial patterns no astronomer recognizes. For over a century, the world's top cryptographers, linguists, and historians have tried and failed to crack the manuscript's code. Military codebreakers from both world wars took a shot, hoping their experience unraveling enemy ciphers would help. Even the team that deciphered Nazi Germany's Enigma machine couldn't make sense of it. Some believe it's an elaborate medieval hoax crafted to deceive wealthy collectors. Others argue the text follows linguistic patterns too consistent to be random gibberish, suggesting it's a genuine, albeit lost, language, the most tantalizing theory. That it's a scientific or herbal encyclopedia from an unknown culture, preserving knowledge we no longer understand. Then there are the wilder explanations. Could it be the work of an isolated sect encoding secret spiritual teachings, a lone genius's private notebook filled with fantastical inventions? Some even speculate it's not of this world at all, that its strange botanical drawings and cosmic diagrams hint at contact with something beyond human understanding. Whatever the truth, the Voynich Manuscript refuses to give up its secrets. Modern technology has only deepened the intrigue. Advanced statistical analysis shows the text follows rules similar to real languages, with word frequency and sentence structure that suggest meaning. Yet every attempted translation crumbles into nonsense. Perhaps the most unsettling question isn't whether we'll ever decode it, but why someone went to such lengths to create a book no one could read. Was it meant to hide knowledge or to preserve something too dangerous to share? Unlike the Antikythera Mechanism, which shows us the heights of ancient ingenuity, the Voynich Manuscript remains a locked door. It's a reminder that some mysteries don't yield answers, they only grow deeper the longer we stare. And in that silence, the past whispers back, daring us to keep trying. Some discoveries don't just challenge history, they short-circuit it entirely. Take the Baghdad Batteries, a collection of unassuming clay jars unearthed in 1936 near what was once ancient Mesopotamia. At first glance, they seemed like ordinary storage vessels until archaeologists noticed something peculiar inside. Copper cylinders wrapped around iron rods, sealed shut with asphalt, a combination that, when filled with acidic liquids like vinegar or wine, produces a faint electrical current. The implications were staggering. These artifacts, dating back nearly 2,000 years to the Parthian Empire, appeared to function as primitive batteries centuries before Alessandro Volta's official invention of the battery in 1800. Theories about their purpose range from the practical to the profound. Some researchers argue they were used for electroplating, coating objects with thin layers of metal, a technique known in the region for gifting jewelry and statues with golden sheens. An experiment by German archaeologist Wilhelm Koenig, who replicated the jars and successfully plated silver with gold, lends credence to this idea, but others counter that no electroplated artifacts from the era have ever been found, and the battery's weak output, barely a volt of electricity, makes this use impractical. Could they have had a more mysterious function? Ancient texts describe medical treatments involving electric fish to numb pain, leading some to speculate the jars were early therapeutic devices, delivering mild shocks to relieve ailments. Then there's the unsettling possibility we've completely misunderstood their role. The asphalt seals show no signs of residue from acidic liquids, and no wires or conductors have been discovered nearby. Were they batteries at all, or something else entirely, perhaps ritual objects storing sacred scrolls rather than electricity? The truth is, these jars defy easy categorization. They exist in a frustrating limbo too sophisticated to dismiss as coincidence, yet too isolated to fit neatly into history's timeline. Unlike the Antikythera Mechanism or Voynich Manuscript, whose mysteries lie in their complexity, the Baghdad Batteries unsettle us because of their eerie simplicity. They suggest that electricity, a force we associate with modernity, might have been toyed with in dimly lit workshops millennia ago, only for the knowledge to vanish like a spark in the wind. What lingers isn't just the question of how they were used, but why no other examples have surfaced. If this technology was widespread, where's the evidence? If it was experimental, who were the visionaries behind it? The Baghdad Batteries force us to confront an uncomfortable truth. Ancient civilizations might have stumbled upon, and then lost, discoveries we'd attribute only to later eras. They're a humbling reminder that the past isn't a straight line of progress, but a labyrinth of forgotten genius, dead ends, and sparks of brilliance we're still struggling to comprehend. Buried within the dusty tombs of Saqqara, Egypt, lies an artifact that seems to defy the boundaries of time. Discovered in 1898 during the excavation of the Piri tomb, the Saqqara bird is a small wooden figurine, barely 6 inches long, dating back to around 200 BC. At first glance, it appears unremarkable, just another ancient carving among countless others. But look closer, and something peculiar emerges. With its sleek, aerodynamic body, upright tail fin, and wings that curve precisely like those of a modern aircraft, this artifact bears an uncanny resemblance to a glider or even a rudimentary airplane. How could a civilization that left us pyramids and hieroglyphs craft an object that looks so strikingly like 20th century aviation technology? The theories are as varied as they are fascinating. Mainstream archaeologists argue it's merely a ceremonial falcon, a representation of the god Horus, or perhaps a child's toy. After all, birds were potent symbols in ancient Egypt, associated with deities and the soul's journey. But then there's the unsettling detail. The Saqqara bird lacks legs, feathers, or any of the usual markings found on other bird carvings. Instead, its wings are thick and shaped like airfoils, perfect for generating lift. This anomaly led aerodynamics expert Simon Sanderson to put the artifact to the test. In 2006, Sanderson built a scaled-up replica of the Saqqara bird, adjusting only the angle of its wings to match modern aviation principles. The result, the model exhibited remarkable gliding capabilities, staying airborne with minimal effort. This raises an electrifying question. Did ancient Egyptians understand principles of flight centuries before Da Vinci sketched his famous ornithopter? Some researchers point to temple carvings that appear to depict helicopters and flying machines, fueling speculation about lost knowledge. Yet skeptics counter that correlation doesn't equal causation. The Saqqara bird could simply be a happy accident of design, an object that happens to resemble modern aircraft without any intentional engineering behind it. Without written records or additional artifacts to confirm its purpose, we're left circling the same enigma. Was it a sacred object, a toy, or something far more extraordinary? The Saqqara bird doesn't offer answers, only possibilities. It hovers at the edge of history, taunting us with the tantalizing idea that flight might not have been invented in Kitty Hawk but rediscovered. And that makes it one of archaeology's most quietly provocative puzzles. High in the remote mountains of China's Bayan Ha region, A discovery in 1938 sent shockwaves through archaeology, then vanished into controversy. A team led by archaeologist Kai Pute stumbled upon a series of strange caves, their walls lined with ancient graves, but it wasn't the skeletons that would spark decades of debate. Nestled beside the remains were hundreds of stone discs, each roughly 12 inches in diameter, with a perfect hole at the center and spiral grooves radiating outward. At first glance, they resembled primitive wheels or ritual objects. Then researchers noticed something inexplicable. The grooves weren't just decorative. Under magnification, they resolved into lines of miniature hieroglyphs, a script so tiny and precise that it defied the technology of the era they supposedly came from. The stones, now called the Dropa Stones, were initially dated to 12,000 years old, a claim that alone would rewrite history. But the inscriptions were where the story took a surreal turn. When transcribed by a linguist named Tsum Nui, according to disputed accounts, the text told an astonishing tale. It spoke of a spacecraft crashing into the mountains, its occupants, the Dropa people, stranded on Earth. The script allegedly described these beings as small, frail, and struggling to survive in an alien environment. Even more bizarrely, local legends spoke of a tribe with unusual physical traits, short stature, large heads, and pale skin, who claimed descent from the stars. Skeptics were quick to dismantle the story. The original discs vanished during World War II, leaving only drawings and photographs. No reputable scholar outside the initial team ever examined them, and Tsum Nui's research was reportedly suppressed by Chinese authorities. Mainstream archaeology dismisses the stones as hoaxes or misidentified Neolithic artifacts, possibly ceremonial by discs used in ancient rituals, yet the groove's precision remains unsettling. Modern engineers note the spirals resemble vibrational waveforms or even binary code patterns unlikely to emerge by chance. The mystery deepens with the Dropa tribe's lore. Anthropologists recorded their oral histories in the 1960s, finding accounts of ancestors who rode clouds of fire and were not of this earth. Genetic testing, though inconclusive, revealed unusual markers in some tribal members. Could the stones be a lost record of an otherworldly encounter or an elaborate myth fossilized into artifact form? The truth may never be known. Unlike the Antikythera Mechanism or Baghdad Batteries, the Dropa Stones lack peer-reviewed study, leaving them hovering between legend and potential evidence. They force us to confront a haunting question. If an ancient civilization did meet extraterrestrials, how would they record it? Perhaps not with wires or gears, but with stories etched in stone, waiting millennia for us to read between the lines. What lingers isn't just doubt about their origin, but the unsettling possibility that some artifacts resist explanation not because of lost science, but because they whisper of realities we're not yet ready to accept. Whether hoax, history, or something in between, the Dropa Stones remain a Rorschach test for our willingness to believe. And in that ambiguity, they challenge the very boundaries of what we call archaeology. There's a map that shouldn't exist, one that defies everything we know about the age of exploration. In 1929, historians sifting through Istanbul's Topkapi Palace stumbled upon a relic that would upend conventional history, the Piri Reis map. Drawn in 1513 by Ottoman admiral and cartographer Piri Reis, this fragment of a larger world map depicts coastlines with impossible accuracy. But the real shock lies at the bottom of the parchment. There, drawn in meticulous detail, is the northern coastline of Antarctica, a continent that wouldn't be officially discovered for another 300 years, and one that's shown free of ice. How could a 16th century navigator chart a landmass buried under millennia of glacial ice? The map's annotations offer a clue. Piri Reis credits his work not to contemporary explorers but to much older sources, some dating back to the 4th century B.C., including lost charts from the Library of Alexandria. This suggests the map might be a copy of a copy, preserving ancient knowledge that predates even the Roman Empire. Modern analysis reveals eerie precision. The map's rendering of South America's eastern coast matches satellite surveys, and its depiction of Antarctica's Queen Maud Land aligns with subglacial topography only confirmed by sonar in the 20th century. The implications are staggering. If the map truly shows Antarctica as it looked before the ice, it implies the existence of a pre-glacial civilization with advanced seafaring and cartographic skills, one capable of surveying a continent we've only mapped with satellites and ice-penetrating radar. Geologists estimate Antarctica's last ice-free period ended around 4000 B.C., placing these hypothetical mapmakers in a timeline that predates the pyramids of Giza. Mainstream scholars counter that the landmass might represent a distorted South America or a lucky guess, but the coastline's unique features, like the Falkland Islands positioned correctly, hint at more than coincidence. Then there's the enigma of the map's projection. Without the mathematical tools to account for Earth's curvature, 16th century maps often distorted landmasses. Yet the Piri Reis map uses an advanced equidistant projection, centering on Egypt in a way that minimizes distortion, a technique not formally developed until the 19th century. Could this be evidence of inherited knowledge from a lost civilization? Or does it point to something even more extraordinary, like fragments of a forgotten global survey conducted in antiquity? The map's mysteries don't end there. Marginal notes describe a warm, hospitable Antarctica where creatures with 6 horns roamed. While dismissed as fantasy, these details echo Plato's account of Atlantis, an advanced civilization said to have mapped the world before its downfall. Whether the Piri Reis map is a window into that lost world or simply an artifact of brilliant guesswork, it forces us to confront an unsettling possibility that our planet's history might be filled with chapters we've yet to discover or even imagine. In the quiet corner of a Texas museum sits an object that makes geologists and historians alike pause mid-step, a steel hammer, its handle mostly petrified, encased in a chunk of Cretaceous-era rock that dates back over 100 million years. Known as the London Hammer, after the nearby town where it was discovered in 1936, this artifact defies logic at every turn. The hammerhead, made of an unusually pure iron alloy, shows no signs of rust or deterioration, while its wooden handle has undergone a near-miraculous transformation, partially fused into the surrounding stone as if time itself couldn't decide whether to preserve or erase it. Geologists initially dismissed it as a miner's tool embedded in ancient limestone by natural processes, but closer examination only deepened the mystery. The rock encasing the hammer contains mineral deposits that suggest it formed around the object, not the other way around. Paleontologists note that the Cretaceous period ended 65 million years before humans evolved, let alone developed metallurgy. So how does a tool bearing hallmarks of 19th century craftsmanship end up sealed inside rock older than the dinosaurs? Skeptics propose that the hammer could be a relatively modern object that became enveloped in mineral-rich water, forming a concretion over centuries rather than millennia. Yet even this theory struggles to explain the purity of the iron, which lacks the sulfur or other impurities typical of industrial-era metals. Metallurgists who analyzed the hammerhead found its composition startlingly advanced, akin to alloys developed in the 20th century for specialized tools. Then there are the more radical interpretations. Could the hammer be evidence of a lost civilization with technology far beyond what's recorded in our history books? Some researchers point to similar anomalies like the 2,000-year-old Roman dodecahedrons or the inexplicably advanced iron pillars of Delhi as hints of forgotten knowledge. Others, with a wink, suggest wilder possibilities: time travelers misplacing tools, or even extraterrestrial visitors leaving behind artifacts. What makes the London Hammer uniquely frustrating is its isolation. Unlike the Antikythera Mechanism or Baghdad Batteries, which fit into broader archaeological contexts, this artifact stands alone, a single, bewildering outlier. There's no ancient workshop nearby, no corroborating texts or legends. It's as if the hammer fell or was placed into the past, waiting for us to stumble upon its riddle. Perhaps the most unsettling question isn't where it came from, but how many more objects like it might lie buried, hidden in layers of earth we assume we understand. The London Hammer doesn't just challenge our timeline of human achievement, it taps lightly on the door of our collective certainty, asking us to consider whether history, as we've written it, might be missing entire chapters. And until we find another hammer, or better yet, the hand that once swung it, this relic remains a silent, stubborn wrench in the gears of conventional archaeology. Stretching across nearly 200 square miles of Peru's arid Nazca Desert, a series of colossal etchings sprawl like a cryptic message left for the sky. These are the Nazca Line's monumental geoglyphs, so vast they can only be fully appreciated from the air. Some stretch over 1,200 feet long, depicting intricate patterns, geometric shapes, and over 70 distinct designs of animals, from hummingbirds with wingspans rivaling jumbo jets to a monstrous spider whose legs curl with anatomical precision. The scale is staggering, but the real mystery lies in their creation. How did a civilization without flight or modern surveying tools craft these sprawling artworks with such mathematical accuracy over 2,000 years ago? Theories about their purpose spiral as wildly as the lines themselves. Archaeologists first proposed they served as celestial roadmaps, aligning with solstices or constellations to guide agricultural cycles. Certain lines do point to the sun's position during key seasonal changes, but others meander without clear astronomical significance. Then there's the spiritual angle. Many researchers believe the glyphs were sacred pathways, walked during rituals to summon rain or honor deities. The desert's dry climate preserves offerings found near the lines, seashells from distant coasts, pottery, and even human remains, suggesting ceremonies of profound importance. But it's the fringe hypotheses that ignite imaginations. In the 1960s, Swiss author Erich von Däniken famously speculated the lines were landing strips for extraterrestrial spacecraft, citing their bird's eye view visibility and the region's legends of sky gods. While mainstream science dismisses this, the precision of the designs remains baffling. Without aerial vantage points, how did the Nazca people maintain proportion over hundreds of feet? Experiments show they likely used simple stakes and ropes to plot the lines, scaling up small models through a grid system. Yet even this explanation stumbles when confronted with figures like the astronaut, a humanoid carving perched on a hillside, its helmeted head gazing upward as if awaiting contact. The most haunting question isn't how they were made, but why they endure. Unlike the Antikythera Mechanism or Baghdad Batteries, the Nazca lines weren't hidden or buried, they were boldly displayed, etched into the earth with an insistence on being seen. But by whom? The Nazca culture left no written records, only these silent, sprawling invitations to look skyward. Perhaps the lines were never meant to be solved, only to remind us that some civilizations shout their mysteries into the wind, trusting that one day someone or something might finally look down and understand. Today, modern technology reveals new layers to the puzzle. Satellite imagery has uncovered hundreds of previously unknown lines, some hidden beneath the desert for centuries. Drones detect faint tracings eroded by time, suggesting the full scale of the project might dwarf current estimates. Every discovery deepens the enigma, proving that even from the air, the Nazca lines refuse to surrender their secrets. They stand as a testament to human ingenuity, or perhaps as a beacon, still waiting for an audience we can't yet imagine. In the rugged mountains of California's Coso Range, what began as a routine rockhounding expedition in 1961 spiraled into one of archaeology's most hotly debated anomalies. While cracking open what appeared to be an ordinary geode, collectors Wallace Lane, Virginia Maxey, and Mike Mikesell stumbled upon an object that shouldn't have existed, a cylindrical metal rod encased in hardened clay, surrounded by a ceramic ring and a copper core. To the trained eye, it looked unmistakably like a 20th century spark plug, but the geology told a different story. The nodule's outer layers showed mineralization consistent with formations dating back 500,000 years, 500,000 years before humans even harnessed fire, let alone internal combustion. Dubbed the Koso artifact, this tiny enigma ignited a firestorm of speculation. Initial analysis by geologists confirmed the encasing rock matched ancient lakebed deposits with layers that had formed over millennia. X-rays revealed intricate internal structures, including a hexagonal sheath resembling a modern spark plug's insulator. Skeptics argued it was simply a champion brand plug from the 1920s, somehow lodged into younger rock through natural processes. Yet the artifact's discoverers insisted the geode showed no signs of recent disturbance, and the mineral buildup suggested centuries, if not millennia, of undisturbed formation. The debate fractures into three camps. Mainstream scientists dismiss it as a classic case of a young object in old rock, where modern items become embedded through geological flukes. They point to California's mining history, suggesting the spark plug could have fallen into a fissure that later filled with mineral-rich water, hardening around it over decades. But this theory stumbles when confronted with the artifact's alleged age. If the mineralization truly took 500,000 years, why does the spark plug's design mirror early 20th century models? Then there's the fringe perspective that the Koso artifact is a relic of an advanced prehistoric civilization, one that mastered technology before vanishing without a trace. Proponents highlight similar anomalies like the Iron Pillar of Delhi or the Greek Antikythera Mechanism as evidence that ancient societies might have achieved sophistication we've yet to uncover. But without corroborating artifacts or records, this remains speculative at best. The wildest theory that the object isn't ancient at all, but a fragment from the future, a piece of machinery lost during accidental time travel and fossilized in the distant past. While this leans into science fiction, it raises an unsettling question. If a futuristic device fell into prehistoric hands, how would they, or we even recognize it? The Koso artifact's current whereabouts are unknown, adding to its mystique. After being displayed briefly in the 1960s, it vanished, leaving behind only photographs and polarized opinions. What lingers isn't just the question of its origin, but the broader dilemma it represents. Archaeology relies on context, the layers of soil, the nearby artifacts, the historical records. But when an object appears utterly out of place, like a spark plug in the Stone Age, it forces us to confront the limits of our understanding. The Koso artifact, whether a geological oddity or a genuine mystery, serves as a humbling reminder that the past might still have pockets of inexplicable strangeness waiting to rewrite the stories we think we know. Hidden away in the Cathedral of St. John the Baptist in Turin, Italy, lies a piece of linen that has sparked devotion, skepticism, and scientific debate for centuries. The Shroud of Turin, a 14-foot-long cloth bearing the faint, haunting image of a bearded man with wounds consistent with crucifixion, is one of the most contested relics in history. To believers, it's the burial shroud of Jesus Christ, miraculously imprinted with his likeness during the resurrection. To skeptics, it's an elaborate medieval forgery. But what makes this artifact truly extraordinary isn't just its origin story. It's the fact that, despite decades of cutting-edge analysis, no one can definitively explain how the image was created. The shroud first appeared in historical records in the mid-1400s when a French knight displayed it as a holy relic. But its modern scrutiny began in 1898, when photographer Secondo Pia took the first official photograph of the cloth and made a chilling discovery. The negative plate revealed a strikingly detailed positive image, far clearer than the faint markings visible to the naked eye. The face was photorealistic, with three-dimensional depth impossible to replicate with medieval techniques. The wounds matched biblical accounts of Christ's torture, lacerations from scourging, a puncture in the side consistent with a Roman spear, and even thorn-like marks circling the forehead. Then came the science. In 1988, radiocarbon dating of a small sample placed the shroud's origin between 1260 and 1390, squarely in the Middle Ages. Case closed, not quite. Critics quickly pointed out flaws in the testing. The sample came from a repaired edge, possibly contaminated by centuries of handling and fire. Damaged. The shroud survived a chapel blaze in 1532, leaving scorch marks still visible today. Later studies using different methods like analyzing pollen grains trapped in the fibers or studying microscopic traces of dirt suggested origins in ancient Jerusalem. Some researchers even identified traces of limestone unique to the region around the Holy Sepulchre. But the biggest mystery isn't when the shroud was made, it's how. The image isn't painted, dyed, or scorched into the fabric. Instead, it's a superficial discoloration of the topmost fibers, akin to a chemical change from rapid dehydration. Attempts to replicate it using medieval techniques including radiation, acid treatments, and even powdered pigment fail to capture the shroud's nuances. The image has no directionality, meaning it wasn't applied by hand. It lacks brushstrokes, pigment pooling, or any signs of artistic toolwork. Most baffling of all, the coloration penetrates only the outermost threads, as if created by a brief, intense burst of energy. Could it be supernatural? Some scientists theorize the image formed through a rare phenomenon like corona discharge, a burst of radiant energy. Others propose it resulted from a natural chemical reaction between the cloth and a body's decomposition gases. But neither fully explains the image's precision or its eerie negative to positive photographic properties. Even NASA researchers brought in during the 1970s concluded the shroud's creation defies conventional explanation. The shroud's enigma lingers because it straddles two worlds, faith and science. For some, it's a divine artifact, its very resistance to explanation proof of its sacred origins. For others, it's a medieval masterpiece of unknown craftsmanship, a puzzle still waiting to be solved. But perhaps the most compelling question isn't whether it's real or fake, but why, after 6 centuries of scrutiny, this single piece of linen continues to challenge everything we think we know about art, history, and the boundaries of human understanding. Deep within the Temple of Hathor at Dendera, Egypt, a series of enigmatic carvings climb the walls, whispering secrets that straddle the line between ancient symbolism and technological revelation. These bas-reliefs, dating back to around 50 B.C., depict what appear to be oversized bulbs or glowing vessels, each cradling a snake-like filament stretching toward a lotus flower at its base. Connecting these bulbs are figures holding them aloft, some kneeling as if tending to the devices, while cables, or perhaps serpents, twist away into the shadows. To modern eyes, the resemblance to electric light bulbs is uncanny, sparking a debate that has raged for decades. Were the ancient Egyptians merely portraying mystical symbols, or could these carvings be evidence of lost electrical knowledge? Mainstream Egyptology dismisses the Dendera light interpretation as a case of seeing modern technology where none existed. Scholars argue the imagery represents a well-documented religious motif, the creation myth of the serpent god Harsomptus emerging from a lotus blossom, symbolizing rebirth and cosmic energy. In this view, the so-called bulbs are actually depictions of the primordial lotus, a sacred plant tied to solar cycles and divine light. The filaments are interpreted as stylized snakes, embodiments of protective deities, while the cables may simply be artistic flourishes or ritual staffs. Context supports this. Similar lotus and serpent motifs appear throughout Egyptian art, always tied to mythology rather than mechanics, yet the alternative theory refuses to fade. In 1982, engineers Peter Krasser and Reinhard Habeck took the idea further, proposing that the reliefs documented a form of ancient electrical illumination. They pointed to the temple's underground chambers, where soot stains are conspicuously absent, unusual for spaces supposedly lit by torches or oil lamps. Could these carvings be blueprints for Crookes tubes, early gas discharge lamps that produce light when an electrical current passes through a low-pressure gas? To test the hypothesis, researchers built replicas based on the Dendera designs, filling glass bulbs with argon gas and applying voltage. The results were startling. The models emitted a faint, eerie glow, with the serpentine filaments lighting up in a manner eerily reminiscent of the carvings. Skeptics counter that correlation doesn't equal causation. While the experiment produced light, it required modern materials and understanding resources the ancients lacked. There's no evidence of batteries, wiring, or insulating materials in the archaeological record to support an electrical grid. And if the Egyptians had such technology, why is it depicted only at Dendera with no surviving artifacts or textual references elsewhere? Perhaps the truth lies somewhere between. The carvings might encode a deeper understanding of natural phenomena than we've credited. Some researchers suggest the images could represent electrostatic effects observed in the temple's underground chambers, where friction between quartz-rich stone and flowing water might generate brief sparks, enough to inspire mythological tales of divine light. Or maybe the reliefs are purely symbolic, yet their resemblance to technology speaks to something universes in human imagination, a recurring visual language for illumination, whether spiritual or scientific. What makes the Dendera reliefs uniquely compelling isn't just the question of what they depict, but why the imagery feels so familiar. They exist in a liminal space between artifact and allegory, challenging us to disentangle ancient ingenuity from our own projections. Whether sacred art or schematic, these carvings remind us that the past often communicates in a language we're still learning to decipher, one where myth and machine might not have been so separate after all. Buried beneath the roots of a towering maple tree in Maine, a tiny silver coin no larger than a fingernail appended traditional narratives of American history. Discovered in 1957 during an archaeological dig at the Naskeag Point site, a prehistoric Native American settlement, the Maine penny seemed innocuous at first glance. But when experts cleaned off centuries of grime, the markings became unmistakable. This was a Norse coin, minted between 1065 and 1080 during the reign of Olaf Kyrre, a Viking king of Norway. The implications were staggering. Here was tangible proof of Norse presence in North America nearly 400 years before Columbus sailed the ocean blue, but the story behind how it got there is anything but simple. The coin's discovery at a Native American site linked to the Penobscot tribe raises more questions than answers. On one hand, it aligns perfectly with the sagas of Leif Erikson, the Viking explorer said to have reached a land he called Vinland around the year 1000. Archaeologists have long accepted that Norse settlers built short-lived outposts in Newfoundland at Elance Oaks Meadows, but Maine lies over 1,000 miles south. Could this coin mean the Vikings ventured much farther into the continent than previously believed? Proponents point to its condition, minimal wear, suggesting it didn't circulate long before being lost or traded. They argue it might have been carried by a Norse traveler, perhaps as part of a forgotten expedition that pushed beyond the safety of coastal camps. Yet skeptics propose a less dramatic explanation. The coin could have reached Maine through indigenous trade networks stretching from the Arctic to the Gulf of Mexico. Inuit and Dorset peoples in northern Canada were known to interact with Norse settlers, sometimes acquiring metal goods through barter or raids. Over generations, such items might have passed from hand to hand, traveling south along established trade routes. This theory gains traction from the coin's context. It was found alongside thousands of Native American artifacts, with no other Norse objects nearby. If Vikings had visited Maine, wouldn't there be more traces, tools, weapons, or structural remains? The debate took a twist in the 1970s when researchers noted the coin's odd minting date. Olaf Kyr's reign began 65 years after the Vinland expedition supposedly ended. This timing suggests the coin might have arrived centuries after the Norse left North America, carried by later European fishermen or even early medieval traders. But if so, how did it end up in an undisturbed layer of soil dated to the 1200s? The lack of other European artifacts from that era makes this theory equally shaky. What lingers isn't just the question of how the main penny traveled, but why it's the only one of its kind. No other Norse coins have been found in North America outside Newfoundland, leaving this lone artifact suspended between history and mystery. It's a silent witness to something, whether a fleeting Viking voyage, a sprawling indigenous trade web, or a chance loss we'll never fully explain. Unlike the grandiose ruins of Elant's Ox Meadows, this humble coin doesn't shout its story. It whispers, inviting us to reconsider not just who reached America first, but how deeply and unpredictably the threads of ancient civilizations might have intertwined. And in that quiet, it challenges us to ask, how many other small, overlooked objects might be hiding in the soil, waiting to rewrite the stories we think we know? Along the banks of Romania's Mureș River, buried in a layer of sediment dating back over 10,000 years, construction workers uncovered an object that shatters conventional timelines. Known as the Aod artifact, this wedge-shaped piece of metal measured roughly 8 inches long and weighed just under 5 pounds, unremarkable at first glance. But when scientists analyzed its composition, they were met with a staggering revelation. It was made almost entirely of aluminum, a metal humanity didn't smelt until the early 19th century. How could an industrially produced alloy end up encased in geological layers formed at the end of the last ice age, when humans were still using stone tools? The artifact's discovery in 1974 immediately split experts into opposing camps. Geological surveys confirmed the strata where it was found hadn't been disturbed since the Pleistocene epoch, ruling out recent contamination. Microscopic analysis revealed a thick oxide layer consistent with extreme age, yet the metal itself showed signs of advanced manufacturing, precise grooves and concave indentations suggesting machine tooling. Skeptics proposed it might be a fragment of heavy machinery from the 1900s, perhaps a broken excavator tooth that somehow sank deep into ancient sediment. But this theory falters when confronted with the artifact's purity. Early industrial aluminum contained trace impurities like magnesium or silicon, while the Aod wedge's alloy was suspiciously close to modern aerospace-grade metal. Proponents of ancient advanced technology point to even stranger details. The wedge's shape bears an uncanny resemblance to landing gear components from 20th century aircraft, fueling speculation about time-displaced machinery or even extraterrestrial visitation. Others argue it could be evidence of a forgotten metallurgical tradition. Historical records from ancient Rome describe experiments with alum salts, and some medieval alchemists wrote of producing mysterious lightweight metals, hints that isolated groups might have stumbled upon aluminum production long before its official discovery. The most compelling counterargument comes from the artifact's immediate context, or lack thereof. No other aluminum objects have been recovered from similarly aged sites, nor are there signs of furnaces, tools, or slag piles that would indicate local production. If the Aod artifact is genuine, it exists in baffling isolation, like a single puzzle piece from a box we didn't know existed. Perhaps the most unsettling possibility isn't that it's proof of ancient astronauts or time travelers, but something more subtle. Could aluminum occur naturally under extraordinary conditions? In 2019, researchers discovered native aluminum particles in coal seams formed through rare geochemical processes. While these natural examples are microscopic, they prove the metal isn't exclusively man-made. Might the Aod wedge be a 1 in a billion fluke, a metallic oddity forged by some forgotten confluence of pressure, heat, and chemistry. The artifact's current location, reportedly locked away in an undisclosed private collection, has stifled further study, leaving the debate frozen in speculation. Unlike the Antikythera Mechanism or Baghdad Batteries, which fit into broader archaeological puzzles, the Ayod artifact stands alone, unyielding to explanation. It doesn't just challenge our timeline of human innovation. It whispers of alternate histories where progress isn't linear, where breakthroughs might flicker into existence and vanish, leaving only scattered fragments for us to stumble upon millennia later. And until another like it emerges from the earth, this metallic enigma remains a stubborn question mark hammered into the foundations of our understanding. Deep in the forests of Minnesota, a farmer clearing his land in 1898 unearthed a slab of grey-wacky stone weighing over 200 pounds, and with it, a mystery that would divide scholars for over a century. The Kensington runestone, covered in carved Norse runes, tells a harrowing tale of Viking explorers venturing deep into North America's heartland. Translated, its inscription reads, 8 Goths and 22 Norwegians on an exploration journey from Vinland. We had camped by 2 skerries 1 day's journey north from this stone. We were out fishing one day. After we came home, found 10 men red with blood and dead. AVM save us from evil. Beneath this chilling message, the stone bears a date, 1362. If genuine, the runestone rewrites history, suggesting Norse expeditions pushed nearly 2,000 miles inland from their known settlements in Newfoundland over a century after the last recorded Viking voyages to Vinland. The implications are staggering. It would mean medieval Scandinavians traversed the Great Lakes region, interacting with indigenous peoples decades before Columbus. Proponents point to the stone's weathering patterns, which match centuries of exposure, and linguistic analysis claiming the runes use archaic forms consistent with 14th century Old Norse. Some even note parallels between the carvings and Norse artifacts found in Maine, hinting at a broader exploration network, but skepticism runs just as deep. Critics highlight glaring inconsistencies, like the inscription's mix of runic styles from different eras and regions, an unlikely combination for a genuine medieval artifact. The language, too, raises eyebrows. While mostly Old Norse, it contains modern Swedish influences and odd phrasing, as if mimicking rather than fluently wielding the ancient tongue. Most damningly, the stone emerged in a Minnesota settlement populated by Scandinavian immigrants, men well-versed in runic writing and Norse sagas. Could one of them have crafted an elaborate hoax to cement their heritage place in American history? Forensic analysis adds fuel to the debate. Geologists confirm the stone's grooves show iron oxide deposits consistent with centuries of aging, but skeptics counter that deliberate chemical treatments could mimic natural weathering. Meanwhile, the runestone's discovery site lacked any accompanying Viking artifacts, no tools, no settlements, no corroborating evidence of a tragic massacre. The stone's defenders offer a compelling counterargument. Why would a hoaxer choose such an obscure location, far from academic centers where fame might follow? And how would a 19th century farmer replicate the nuanced weathering that modern scientists struggle to debunk? Some scholars propose a middle ground, that the stone might be a genuine artifact, but one altered or enhanced by its discoverers, blurring the line between discovery and deception. Today, the Kensington runestone sits in a museum, its runes still whispering 2 versions of history. One speaks of daring explorers meeting a grim fate in uncharted wilderness. The other tells of immigrant pride forging a tangible link to ancestral glory. Perhaps the truth lies somewhere between, reminding us that history isn't just written by the victors, but sometimes by those longing to belong to it. Buried near the shores of Lake Titicaca in Bolivia, a peculiar ceramic vessel sits at the heart of one of archaeology's most contentious debates. Known as the Fuente Magna Bowl, this ornate artifact, discovered in the 1950s by a local farmer, bears inscriptions that shouldn't exist in South America. Etched into its inner surface are symbols unmistakably resembling Sumerian cuneiform, the wedge-shaped writing system of ancient Mesopotamia. The implications are staggering. If authentic, the bowl suggests that Sumerian explorers or traders reached the Andes over 4,000 years ago, millennia before Columbus's voyages, a notion that upends everything we know about pre-Columbian history. The bowl's design only deepens the mystery. Its shallow, wide-mouthed shape mirrors ceremonial vessels used in Mesopotamian rituals, while the intricate carvings depict zoomorphic figures blending Andean and Near Eastern artistic styles. The cuneiform itself, when translated by researchers in the 1960s, appears to fragmentary prayers to the Sumerian fertility goddess Ninq, her sag phrases eerily out of place in the high-altitude plains of Bolivia. How could a script used in the cradle of civilization wind up inscribed on an artifact halfway across the world, separated by impassable oceans and epochs? Mainstream scholars dismiss the Fuente Magna Bowl as an elaborate hoax, arguing that no other Sumerian artifacts or cultural traces have ever been found in the Americas. They point to stylistic inconsistencies in the cuneiform, noting odd grammatical errors and symbol combinations unlikely to appear in genuine Mesopotamian writing. Some suspect the bowl might be a 20th century fabrication, perhaps created by someone familiar with cuneiform from published sources, aiming to stir controversy or profit from sensationalism. The bowl's discoverer, after all, reportedly sold it quickly to a private collector, leaving its original archaeological context undocumented, a red flag for forgery. Yet defenders of the bowl's authenticity highlight forensic details that complicate the hoax theory. Mineral analysis of the ceramic matches local Bolivian clay, suggesting it wasn't imported or manufactured elsewhere. The patina inside the inscriptions shows aging consistent with centuries of wear, and the symbols themselves are carved with a precision that would have required specialized knowledge of ancient cuneiform, something rare outside academic circles in the 1950s. Even more intriguing, the bowl was found near Tiwanaku, a site with its own share of anomalies like the intricately cut stones of Puma Punku, which some argue display engineering techniques ahead of their time. The debate takes a speculative turn when examining broader evidence of transoceanic contact. Proponents of ancient diffusionism, the idea that pre-Columbian civilizations interacted with Old World cultures, cite similarities between Sumerian and Andean mythologies, from flood narratives to sun worship. They also point to the presence of cocaine and tobacco residues in Egyptian mummies, plants native only to the Americas, as potential evidence of trade networks spanning oceans. Could the Fuente Magna Bowl be a physical remnant of such exchanges, a relic of a forgotten Silk Road of the seas? Skeptics counter that isolated anomalies don't rewrite history. Without corroborating artifacts like Sumerian tools or skeletal remains in the region, the bowl remains an outlier. They argue that if Sumerians had the naval technology to reach South America, we'd find more than a single contested ceramic piece. Whole shipwrecks, settlements, or genetic evidence would litter the archaeological record. The absence of such proof, they say, speaks louder than one enigmatic bowl. Perhaps the most haunting question isn't whether the Fuente Magna Bowl is real or fake, but why its mystery resonates so deeply. It taps into a fundamental human curiosity, the longing to connect distant cultures, to imagine a past more interconnected than textbooks allow. Whether it's a misidentified local artifact, an elaborate forgery, or a genuine keystone to lost history, the bowl forces us to confront how little we truly know about the ingenuity and wanderlust of ancient civilizations. And until another like it emerges from the earth, it will remain a silent challenge, daring us to reconsider the boundaries of the possible. In the arid valleys near Peru's Ica region, a collection of stones has ignited one of archaeology's most heated debates. Known as the Ica stones, these andesite rocks ranging from fist-sized to boulders weighing over 50 pounds are etched with scenes that defy conventional history. Some show humans hunting or interacting with creatures unmistakably resembling dinosaurs. Others depict complex medical procedures, advanced astronomical charts, and even what appear to be telescopes or flying machines. If genuine, these carvings suggest an ancient civilization possessed knowledge of paleontology and technology millennia before modern science, but their origins remain shrouded in controversy. The stones first gained attention in the 1960s when a local farmer, Basilio Ashuya, began selling them to tourists, claiming he discovered them in a network of hidden caves. Their sheer volume, eventually numbering in the tens of thousands, raised immediate red flags. Skeptics argue the stones are modern forgeries, pointing to inconsistencies in their weathering patterns and the lack of any documented archaeological context. Geologists note the carvings lack the deep patina expected from centuries of exposure, with fresh-looking grooves suggesting recent toolwork. Even more damning, Ashuya later admitted to crafting many of the stones himself, using dental tools and aging them with cow dung to simulate antiquity. Yet the story doesn't end there. Defenders of the stones highlight peculiar details that resist easy dismissal. A handful were reportedly discovered in undisturbed Inca-era burial sites, predating Ashuya's activities by centuries. Some carvings feature species of dinosaurs not scientifically classified until the late 20th century, like the spiny-backed Amargasaurus, knowledge unlikely to be possessed by a rural Peruvian farmer in the 1960s. The stone's artistic style also varies dramatically, from crude scratchings to intricate, anatomically precise engravings, hinting at multiple hands and eras of creation. The most compelling argument for their authenticity lies in their sheer strangeness. Why would a forger depict such bizarre, unmarketable scenes, humans performing brain surgery alongside stegosaurs, or charting celestial movements with tools resembling astrolabes? Hoaxes typically cater to popular expectations, yet the Ica stone's imagery aligns with no known mythology or historical narrative. Some researchers propose they might be a mix of ancient and modern artifacts, genuine prehistoric carvings later enhanced or replicated by locals capitalizing on tourist interest. Underlying the debate is a deeper question. Why does the idea of humans coexisting with dinosaurs captivate us so intensely? The stones tap into fringe theories of forbidden archaeology, suggesting mainstream science has overlooked or suppressed evidence of advanced ancient civilizations. Proponents point to similar anomalies like the Cambodian Tarprom Temple's Stegosaurus-like carving or the Acambaro figurines of Mexico as potential corroboration. But without physical evidence, DNA, tool marks, or verifiable stratigraphy, the Ica stones remain in limbo, a Rorschach test for our willingness to question established timelines. What lingers isn't just their disputed origin, but the cultural phenomenon they've inspired. From documentaries to conspiracy forums, the stones have become symbols of the tension between academic rigor and alternative history. They challenge us to ask, if even a fraction of these carvings are genuine, what does that mean for our understanding of human or perhaps non-human history? Until rigorous, unbiased testing is conducted on stones from sealed archaeological contexts, they'll remain a tantalizing enigma, either the most elaborate hoax in modern history or fragments of a past far stranger than we've dared to imagine. Unearthed in 1844 during quarrying operations in Kingoody, Scotland, a strange object lodged in solid sandstone would become one of geology's most perplexing anomalies. Workers splitting rock for construction stumbled upon a wedge-shaped iron tool embedded at a depth of 8 feet, a seemingly ordinary hammer except for one impossible detail. The sandstone surrounding it dated back to the Devonian period, over 400 million years ago, an era when life on Earth consisted of primitive plants and fish. By all scientific accounts, this artifact, now known as the Kingudi hammer, shouldn't exist. Yet there it was, its wooden handle partially mineralized, its metal head fused seamlessly into ancient rock. The hammer's design adds another layer of intrigue. Far from a crude prehistoric tool, its shape and proportions match 19th century mining equipment. Metallurgical analysis confirmed the iron head was unusually pure, forged with techniques consistent with industrial-era smithing. This poses a maddening question. How could a relatively modern tool become encased in stone formed millions of years before humans walked the earth? Geologists propose the hammer might have been dropped into a fissure that later filled with mineral-rich water, solidifying around it over centuries rather than millennia. Similar phenomena occur with concretions, where objects become embedded in rapidly forming stone through natural processes. Yet even this theory struggles to explain the hammer's complete encapsulation without leaving gaps or weathering patterns indicative of more recent intrusion. Alternative explanations venture into far more speculative territory. Some researchers suggest the hammer could be evidence of a time slip, an object from the future or past displaced into geological layers where it doesn't belong. While this leans into science fiction, similar anomalies exist, like the Koso artifact or London hammer, challenging conventional timelines. Others propose the existence of a hyper-advanced prehistoric civilization, one that developed metallurgy and engineering before vanishing without a trace. Ancient astronaut theorists take it further, speculating the hammer might be leftover technology from extraterrestrial visitors, though no corroborating evidence supports this claim. What makes the Kingudi hammer uniquely frustrating is its isolation. Unlike the Antikythera Mechanism or Baghdad Batteries, which fit into broader archaeological contexts, this artifact stands alone. No other tools, structures, or cultural remnants from its supposed era have been found nearby. If it's proof of a lost civilization, where's the rest of their legacy? If it's a time traveler's accidental drop, why this single hammer? Mainstream science leans toward a more mundane answer: contamination. The quarry where it was discovered was active in the 1800s, and miners frequently left tools in rock crevices. Over time, natural mineralization could fuse the hammer into older stone, creating the illusion of ancient origin. Yet this doesn't fully account for the hammer's deep burial or the sandstone's apparent undisturbed layers. Perhaps the most compelling detail isn't the hammer itself, but the reactions it provokes. For some, it's a call to question the rigidity of geological timelines, suggesting Earth's history might hold pockets of inexplicable strangeness. For others, it's a cautionary tale about how easily anomalies can emerge from incomplete records. The Kingudi hammer doesn't offer answers, only a tantalizing glimpse into how fragile our assumptions about the past truly are. It remains locked in museum storage, a silent challenge to anyone who thinks the story of our planet is fully written. Buried beneath the ruins of a pre-Columbian pyramid in the Toluca Valley, Mexico, an artifact emerged in 1933 that would ignite decades of fierce debate. Among the offerings at the Tlaxcala site, archaeologists uncovered a small terracotta head with unmistakable Greco-Roman features: curly hair, a bearded face, and delicate facial modeling completely alien to Mesoamerican artistic traditions. Carbon dating placed it between the 9th and 13th centuries AD, long before Columbus's voyage, yet its style was a perfect match for Roman sculptures from the 2nd or 3rd century. How could a Mediterranean artifact wind up sealed beneath centuries-old Mexican soil, over 6,000 miles from its presumed origin? The implications are staggering. If authentic, the Tlaxcala head suggests transatlantic contact between Europe and the Americas nearly a millennium earlier than historians accept. Proponents of this theory highlight parallels with other anomalous finds, like Roman coins discovered in Venezuela, or similarities between Mediterranean and Mesoamerican pyramid construction. They argue ocean currents could have carried Roman or Phoenician ships off course, with survivors introducing old-world artistic techniques to local cultures. Some even point to ancient texts like Plutarch's account of a great continent beyond the Atlantic, hinting that classical civilizations might have known more about the world than we've credited. Skeptics, however, dismantle the claim piece by piece. They note the head was found in a burial site already disturbed by colonial-era looters, raising the possibility it was introduced much later. Spanish conquistadors often carried Roman-inspired artifacts as trinkets or talismans, and accidental mixing during early 20th century excavations could explain its presence. Stylistic analysis adds weight to this view. While the head resembles Roman work, its crude, hollow construction and flat backside suggest it might be a colonial-era copy rather than a genuine antique. The debate takes a scientific turn with material evidence. Initial thermoluminescence dating in the 1990s supported the head's pre-Columbian age, but critics question whether contamination from nearby volcanic ash skewed the results. More tellingly, no other Roman artifacts have been found at Takacsik-Kalixtlahuoca or any contemporaneous Mesoamerican site. If transatlantic contact occurred, wouldn't there be pottery shards, tools, or genetic evidence to corroborate it? What lingers isn't just the question of how the head arrived in Mexico, but why this solitary artifact captivates us so deeply. It taps into a larger debate about humanity's interconnectedness, the tantalizing idea that ancient civilizations might have been more mobile, more curious, and more capable than our textbooks allow. Whether it's proof of forgotten voyages or simply a historical accident, the Takacsik-Kalixtlahuoca head refuses to fit neatly into any narrative. It's a whisper across centuries, a face staring back at us from the shadows of two worlds, daring us to reconsider the boundaries of the possible. And until another like it emerges from the earth, this enigmatic terracotta visage will remain a silent challenge to the stories we tell about our past. Deep in the coal mines of Wolfsegg, Austria in 1885, miners splitting open a seam of tertiary-era coal stumbled upon an object that defied all logic, a perfectly shaped iron cube just over 2 inches wide with a distinct groove running around its midsection. The coal bed where it was found dated back an astonishing 20 million years, a time when mammals were barely emerging as Earth's dominant life forms. Yet here was an artifact of unmistakably artificial design, its sharp edges and symmetrical form standing in stark contrast to the rough, organic shapes of the surrounding fossilized plant matter. The Wolfsegg iron, as it became known, immediately divided experts. Initial examinations confirmed it was no random metallic nodule. Its composition was nearly pure iron with traces of nickel, and its surface showed signs of intentional shaping. The groove around its center suggested it might have been part of a larger mechanism, or perhaps a handle for some long-lost tool. But how could an engineered metal object exist millions of years before humans evolved? One faction of researchers argued the cube was of extraterrestrial origin, a meteorite forged in the crucible of space, then sculpted by natural forces into its uncanny shape. Meteorites rich in iron and nickel do occasionally exhibit geometric fractures and some bare grooves from atmospheric entry. Yet critics noted the cube's near-perfect symmetry and the precision of its central groove, features rarely seen in natural space rocks. Even more puzzling, the artifact lacked the characteristic Widmanstetten patterns found in most iron-nickel meteorites, the crystalline signatures of slow cooling in zero gravity. The alternative theory was even more radical, that the Wolfsegg iron was evidence of an unknown prehistoric civilization, one capable of metallurgy in an era when our ancestors were little more than shrew-like creatures. Proponents of this idea pointed to similar anomalies, like the 2-billion-year-old Oklo nuclear reactor in Gabon, a natural formation that eerily resembles man-made fission sites. Could Earth's deep past harbor fragments of forgotten industrial cultures, their achievements buried by the relentless march of geological time? mainstream science dismisses this as fantasy, citing the absence of accompanying artifacts or structural ruins from the same period. Without mines, furnaces, or tools, how could such a civilization sustain metalworking? A third, more cautious explanation emerged over time. The cube might indeed be meteoritic in origin, but altered by human hands far more recently. Miners in the 19th century occasionally repurposed unusual metallic finds as makeshift tools or keepsakes. Perhaps an ancient meteorite fragment was discovered, then deliberately shaped before being misplaced in the coal seams. This would explain both its composition and its form, though it raises another question: why no records of such an object exist in local mining logs? The cube's modern whereabouts add another layer of intrigue. After bouncing between private collections and museums, it vanished during World War II, leaving behind only plaster casts and detailed sketches. Some suspect it was melted down for wartime metal drives, while others whisper it was seized for secret study. Without the original artifact, definitive analysis is impossible, leaving the wolf's egg iron suspended between fact and legend. What lingers isn't just the mystery of its origin, but the unsettling questions it forces us to ask. If natural, why does it resemble nothing else in the geological record? If artificial, who could have crafted it, and what happened to the rest of their world? The cube doesn't offer answers, only a silent challenge, pressing us to admit how little we truly know about the deep past, and what secrets might still lie buried, waiting for the next stroke of a miner's pick to bring them to light. Deep in the pyrophyllite mines of South Africa's Ottosdal region, miners in the 1980s began unearthing peculiar metallic spheres that would ignite one of geology's most heated debates. Known as the Klerksdorp spheres, or more dramatically, the grooved spheres, these objects range from barely a centimeter to over 10 centimeters in diameter, each marked by 3 precise parallel grooves encircling their equators like seams on a baseball. But their strangest feature isn't their symmetry, it's their age. Found embedded in Precambrian rock layers dating back an almost incomprehensible 2.8 billion years, these spheres predate complex life on Earth by billions of years. Their existence raises an electrifying question. How could finely grooved metal objects form in an era when the most advanced organisms were single-celled microbes? Mainstream geologists propose a natural explanation. The spheres, they argue, are likely concretions, mineral formations that accrete in layers around a central nucleus like pearls in an oyster. The pyrophyllite deposits where they're found are rich in volcanic ash and metamorphic minerals, creating ideal conditions for such formations, the grooves. Mere quirks of crystallization where softer mineral layers eroded faster than harder ones over eons. Experiments show that under extreme heat and pressure, minerals like hematite can indeed form spherical shapes, and the grooves might align with natural cleavage planes in the rock. Yet skeptics of this theory highlight unsettling details. The sphere's grooves are unnervingly precise, running parallel with mathematical consistency rather than the irregular patterns expected from erosion. Some specimens even exhibit a fibrous internal structure and metallic composition, primarily hematite and wollaston, unlike typical concretions. Even more puzzling, a few display slight magnetic properties, with their grooves aligning along magnetic field lines as if deliberately oriented. These anomalies have fueled speculation far beyond conventional geology. Enter the ancient nanotechnology hypothesis. A faction of researchers argues the spheres resemble microscopic industrial components, perhaps remnants of a hyper-advanced prehistoric civilization or even extraterrestrial technology. They point to similar grooved microspheres used in modern nanotechnology for precision ball bearings or fluid control systems. Could these objects be fragments of machinery from a lost technological epoch, or even probes left by ancient alien visitors? The idea seems lifted from science fiction, until you consider that NASA currently studies similar synthetic microspheres for space applications, raising eerie parallels. But the most compelling counterargument comes from the sphere's context. Unlike the Antikythera Mechanism or Baghdad Batteries, which exist alongside other human artifacts, the Klerksdorp spheres are isolated in time. No tools, structures, or additional engineered objects accompany them in the geological record. If they're technological, where's the rest of the civilization that produced them? Proponents of the natural formation theory stress that nature often creates patterns we misinterpret as designed, from the hexagonal symmetry of snowflakes to the spiral perfection of seashells. The human brain, they argue, is wired to see intentionality where none exists. The debate crystallizes around a fundamental tension. Are we looking at a 1 in a billion geological fluke, or physical evidence that our planet's history holds chapters we've yet to imagine? The spheres resist easy categorization, existing in a liminal space between mineralogy and mystery. They don't just challenge our understanding of Earth's ancient past, they force us to confront how readily we project our own technological frameworks onto the unknown. Whether natural wonders or artifacts of a forgotten genesis, these grooved enigmas remain buried in more ways than one, their true story still locked within stone older than bones, older than trees, older than almost anything else on Earth. And until new evidence emerges, they'll continue hovering at the edge of science and speculation, inviting us to wonder what else might lie hidden in the darkness of deep time. Scattered across the lush river deltas and dense jungles of Costa Rica, a collection of stone spheres has puzzled archaeologists since their discovery in the 1930s. Ranging in size from mere inches to over 8 feet in diameter and weighing up to 16 tons, these orbs are carved with such geometric precision that modern engineers struggle to explain how ancient artisans achieved such perfection without metal tools or standardized measurement systems. Known locally as Los Bolas, these artifacts number in the hundreds, with the largest clusters found near the Diquis Delta, yet their purpose remains one of Central America's most enduring enigmas. The sphere's craftsmanship defies logic. Made from gabbro, limestone, or sandstone, each one exhibits near-flawless symmetry, with surface variations measuring less than 2 millimeters, comparable to the tolerance of industrial machining. Some display subtle alignments arranged in straight lines, arcs, or even celestial patterns. How did pre-Columbian cultures, working between 300 and 1500 AD, sculpt these stones with such accuracy? Researchers theorize they used a combination of heat, water, and meticulous pecking with harder stones, slowly shaping each sphere over generations. But even this painstaking process doesn't fully account for their uniformity. Laser scans reveal no tool marks or irregularities, suggesting a level of precision that rivals modern lithic technology. Theories about their purpose spiral as wildly as the jungle vines encircling them. One compelling hypothesis ties them to astronomical observation. Certain groupings align with solstices or equinoxes, potentially serving as a massive stone calendar to track agricultural cycles or ceremonial dates. Another suggests they functioned as territorial markers for elite families, their size and placement signaling power and land ownership, an ancient version of fencing without fences. Indigenous oral traditions offer fragmented clues, with some legends describing the spheres as weapons of the gods or navigational aids for celestial beings. Yet the most haunting question isn't how or why they were made, it's what happened to the knowledge behind them. The spheres predate Spanish colonization by centuries, and no surviving records from the Diquis culture detail their construction or significance. Unlike the pyramids of Egypt or Stonehenge, which fit into broader cultural contexts, these orbs stand in eerie isolation. Many were looted or dynamited by plantation workers in the 20th century, their original arrangements forever lost. Those that remain now sit in museum courtyards or half-buried in cocoa fields, their silent geometry a testament to a sophistication we're only beginning to grasp. Modern technology has peeled back some layers of the mystery. Ground-penetrating radar reveals many spheres were transported miles from their quarries, a logistical feat that hints at advanced societal organization. Some even contain hidden magnetic anomalies with poles aligning in ways that suggest intentional placement, perhaps as compasses or energy markers, but for every answer, new questions emerge. Why are certain spheres grouped in prime numbers? Why do their sizes follow mathematical ratios found in harmonic resonance? The stones refuse to surrender their secrets. They roll through time like riddles carved in rock, reminding us that some civilizations leave behind not grand narratives but silent puzzles, invitations to look closer, think deeper, and acknowledge that the past might hold depths we've only begun to explore. Whether celestial maps, status symbols, or something far more esoteric, the stone spheres of Costa Rica challenge us to reconsider what we assume about ancient ingenuity. And until the jungle yields more of its secrets, these perfect orbs will remain suspended between art and enigma, staring back at us with the smooth, impenetrable patience of stone. Buried in the tombs of Colombia's pre-Columbian Quimbaya civilization, a set of small gold figurines has sparked a debate that soars between archaeology and aerodynamics. Crafted between 1000 and 1500 AD, these intricate artifacts known as the Quimbaya Airplanes bear a striking resemblance to modern aircraft, complete with delta wings, stabilizer tails, and even what appear to be cockpits. At first glance, they seem to depict stylized birds or insects, common motifs in indigenous art. But when engineers and aerodynamics experts took a closer look, they noticed something extraordinary. The proportions and shapes align eerily well with principles of flight that humanity wouldn't formally discover for another 900 years. One particular figurine, now housed in Bogotá's Gold Museum, became the center of controversy. Its swept-back wings, perfectly positioned center of gravity, and streamlined fuselage mimic the design of supersonic jets more than any known animal from the region. In the 1990s, German aeronautical engineers Peter Belting and Konrad Lubbers decided to put the theory to the test. They built scaled-up radio-controlled models of the Quimbaya artifacts, outfitting them with propellers and adjusting only the wing angles to account for scale. The results were staggering. Not only did the models fly, they demonstrated remarkable stability, gliding effortlessly through the air with minimal adjustments. Belting later remarked that the design seemed optimized for flight, as if their creators understood concepts like lift and drag long before the Wright brothers took to the skies. Of course, mainstream archaeologists push back hard against these claims. They argue that the figurines clearly represent stylized fauna, likely a fusion of birds, fish, and even seed pods common in Quimbaya iconography. Many pieces feature eyes, mouths, or other organic details that suggest living creatures rather than machines. The wings, they say, could be exaggerated fins or feathers, while the cockpits might simply be artistic flourishes. Some scholars point to similar zoomorphic artifacts from the same era, like the Tarona pendants depicting bats, to show how easily natural forms can be misread through a modern lens. But the aerodynamic tests complicate this dismissal. If the figurines were meant to depict animals, why do their proportions so closely match engineering principles that wouldn't be formalized until the 20th century? Ancient cultures often blended observation with symbolism, but the Quimbaya artifacts seem to occupy a strange middle ground, too precise to be purely artistic, yet too isolated to suggest widespread technological knowledge. There's also the unsettling absence of intermediary designs. If these were meant to be birds or insects, where are the carvings showing gradual stylistic evolution? The figurines appear almost fully formed in the archaeological record, as if their creators were working from a reference we no longer recognize. The debate takes an even stranger turn when considering the Quimbaya culture's broader achievements. Known for their advanced metallurgy, they crafted gold alloys with melting points and durability that still impress modern jewelers. Could they have developed an equally sophisticated understanding of aerodynamics? Some researchers speculate the figurines might represent ceremonial objects or even toys modeled after gliders used in rituals, ancient kites perhaps, or wind-borne offerings to the gods. Others suggest wilder possibilities, contact with a lost civilization that mastered flight, or even fleeting glimpses of advanced technology misinterpreted as divine. What makes the Quimbaya airplanes uniquely fascinating isn't just the question of what they depict, but what they reveal about how we interpret the past. They force us to confront the limits of our own assumptions. Are we seeing ancient aircraft because we're primed to recognize them, or because they genuinely encode forgotten knowledge? The answer might lie somewhere in between, a reminder that human ingenuity has always danced on the edge of the possible, leaving behind artifacts that refuse to fit neatly into the stories we tell about our ancestors. Whether sacred art or schematic, these golden enigmas hover at the boundary of history and imagination, challenging us to reconsider just how high or how far ancient minds might have dared to dream. Digging through the ancient ruins of Ubaid in southern Iraq, archaeologists uncovered a collection of statues so bizarre they seemed ripped from the pages of science fiction. These 7,000-year-old artifacts, dating back to the Ubaid period long before the rise of Sumerian city-states, depict humanoid figures with elongated heads, almond-shaped eyes, and unmistakably reptilian features. Slit pupils stare blankly from smooth, scaled faces, while spindly limbs clutch infants or assume poses that feel eerily ritualistic. Some figures wear helmets adorned with ridges resembling crests. Others lounge with the relaxed posture of deities, their sinewy bodies straddling the line between human and serpent. To modern eyes, they look less like symbolic art and more like evidence of a civilization obsessed with, or perhaps even familiar with, lizard-like beings. Mainstream archaeology dismisses the more sensational interpretations, arguing these statues fit neatly into the symbolic lexicon of early Mesopotamian cultures. Serpents and reptilian imagery pervaded ancient Near Eastern spirituality, representing fertility, wisdom, and chthonic power. The Ubaid figures might depict shamans wearing ritual masks or costumes to channel these forces, much like the snake-adorned priests of later Sumerian temples. The exaggerated features, slit eyes, missing noses, could be artistic conventions akin to the oversized eyes of Cycladic figurines or the distorted proportions of Picasso's Cubist works. Even the postures, some suggest, mirror childbirth scenes or devotional poses, not extraterrestrial encounters, but the alternative theories refuse to slither away quietly. Ancient astronaut enthusiasts point to the statue's uncanny resemblance to modern depictions of reptilian humanoids, from folklore's dragon kings to conspiracy theories about shape-shifting elites. The Ubaid figures lack the mythological context seen in later Mesopotamian art. No accompanying texts describe them as gods or demons. Their isolation in the archaeological record makes them outliers with no clear evolution from or influence on neighboring cultures. Why would a pre-literate society invest such effort into crafting hundreds of these statues if they were merely symbolic? The debate crystallizes around two haunting questions: what inspired these creations, and why do they unsettle us so deeply? Reptilian imagery taps into primal fears, the visceral dread of scales and slit pupils shared across cultures. But the Ubaid statues go further, blending the alien and the familiar in a way that feels intentional. Were they warnings, veneration of a forgotten species, or simply the product of an artist's nightmare? Unlike the Quimbaya Airplanes or Antikythera Mechanism, which challenge our understanding of ancient technology, the Ubaid Lizardmen confront something more intimate, the fear that our ancestors might have known or worshipped something we've yet to comprehend. Until new evidence emerges, these stone-eyed sentinels will keep their secrets, coiled tight in the shadows of prehistory. In the icy depths of the Baltic Sea, a sonar image captured in 2011 by Swedish treasure hunters has ignited one of oceanography's most heated debates. Known as the Baltic Sea anomaly, this massive, disc-shaped object lies nearly 300 feet below the surface, its perfectly rounded edges and unnatural symmetry stark against the seafloor's rugged terrain. Stretching 200 feet across with a peculiar cylindrical protrusion on its top, the structure looks less like a geological formation and more like something ripped from the pages of a sci-fi novel, a sunken spacecraft perhaps, or the ruins of a forgotten civilization. Oceanographers initially dismissed it as a glacial erratic, a boulder deposited by ancient ice sheets, but the anomaly's uncanny geometry defies easy explanation. Side-scan sonar reveals a series of stair-like steps leading to its summit, while thermal imaging suggests the object emits heat signatures inconsistent with surrounding rock. Even stranger, divers reported electronic equipment malfunctioning as they approached it, with cameras flickering and compasses spinning wildly, an effect often associated with high metallic content or electromagnetic interference. Could this be the wreckage of a crashed UFO, its hull still radiating some unknown energy, or evidence of an advanced prehistoric culture swallowed by rising seas? Skeptics counter with more mundane possibilities. The Baltic seafloor is littered with glacial moraines and submarine volcanoes, their eroded forms often taking on geometric appearances. The steps might be wave-cut terraces from when the area was dry land, and the electromagnetic glitches could stem from natural mineral deposits like magnetite. Yet even these explanations stumble when confronted with the anomaly's sheer precision. No known glacial process produces near-perfect circles with 90-degree angles, and no volcanic formation aligns so neatly with the straight-edged runway that appears to extend from its base. Then there's the wildcard theory, a lost Nazi weapon. During World War II, Germany tested advanced submarine technology in the Baltic, including sonar jamming devices and experimental aircraft. Could this be the remnants of a secret project, abandoned as the war crumbled? Historians note that no records mention such a structure, but wartime archives are famously incomplete. What makes the Baltic Sea anomaly uniquely tantalizing is its resistance to categorization. Unlike the Antikythera Mechanism or Baghdad Batteries, which fit into historical contexts, this object exists in a void too precise to be natural, too massive to be easily artificial. It's a Rorschach test for our deepest curiosities, reflecting back whatever we project onto it: ancient astronauts, wartime secrets, or simply the ocean's boundless capacity for mystery. Until deeper exploration is possible, this silent disk remains suspended between legend and science, a ghostly silhouette on the edge of understanding. And in that uncertainty, it reminds us how much of our own planet's story is still written in water, not stone. Rising from a quiet field in Elbert County, Georgia, a cluster of granite slabs stands like a modern-day Stonehenge, its surfaces etched with cryptic messages in 8 of the world's most widely spoken languages. Erected in 1980, the Georgia Guidestones, often dubbed America's Stonehenge, were designed to endure millennia, offering a set of 10 directives for an uncertain future. Yet for all their grandeur, the monument's origins remain as enigmatic as its inscriptions. Commissioned under the pseudonym R.C. Christian, a name believed to be a nod to the secretive Rosicrucian order, the project was bankrolled by an anonymous group who insisted their identities never be revealed. The stone's precise astronomical alignments tracking the sun's solstices and equinoxes hint at a deeper purpose, one that straddles the line between practical utopianism and arcane prophecy. The Guidestone's 10 principles, carved in English, Spanish, Swahili, Hindi, Hebrew, Arabic, Chinese, and Russian, read like a manifesto for a post-crisis world. Among the directives, maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature, and guide reproduction wisely, improving fitness and diversity. Some laud these words as a visionary blueprint for sustainability, while others detect a chilling undercurrent of eugenics or globalist control. The monument's emphasis on unifying humanity under a new age of reason has drawn comparisons to Enlightenment-era ideals, yet its ambiguity fuels endless speculation. Who were R.C. Christian and his cohorts? Were they philanthropists, futurists, or something more esoteric? Adding to the intrigue, the guidestones bore a hidden time capsule buried beneath them, its contents and intended excavation date left unspecified. This deliberate mystery only amplifies the theories swirling around the site. Some speculate the capsule contains the group's identities or additional teachings, while conspiracy theorists whisper of apocalyptic warnings or even technological secrets. The stone's alignment with celestial events further stokes the fire, suggesting they might serve as more than mere landmarks, perhaps as waypoints for some future reckoning or rebirth. Then in 2022, the monument saga took a dramatic turn. An explosion damaged one of the slabs, and authorities opted to dismantle the entire structure, citing safety concerns. Skeptics question the timing, noting the demolition occurred amid rising vandalism and online conspiracy theories. Was it an act of preservation or erasure? The guidestone's physical absence now looms as large as their presence once did, leaving behind only photographs and a lingering question. Were they a gift for tomorrow's survivors or a riddle we were never meant to solve? Unlike ancient artifacts weathered by centuries, the guidestone's brief existence challenges us in a unique way. They force us to confront how quickly the modern world can transform the mysterious into the mundane or the controversial into the forgotten. Whether a blueprint, a warning, or an elaborate enigma, their legacy endures in the whispers they've left behind. And in that silence, they pose one final, unanswered question. What happens when a message meant for the ages vanishes before its time? From the eerie glow of the dendrolite carvings to the silent, grooved spheres buried in billion-year-old rock, these 25 artifacts form a tapestry of mysteries that refuse to fit neatly into the stories we tell about our past. Each one stands as a defiant question mark, whether it's the Baghdad Batteries humming with forgotten electricity, the Antikythera Mechanism tracking celestial movements like an ancient supercomputer, or the Quimbaya Airplanes seeming to defy the very timeline of human innovation. Together, they whisper a tantalizing possibility that history might be far stranger, far more interconnected, or far more advanced than our textbooks dare to admit. But here's the beautiful paradox: these enigmas don't just challenge what we know, they celebrate what we don't. The Dropa Stones and the Ubaid Lizardmen remind us that every culture leaves behind fragments that resist easy explanation, while the Piri Reis map and the Takaxik-Kalixtlahuoka head blur the boundaries between continents and epochs, hinting at voyages or encounters lost to time. Even the Georgia guidestones, though modern, force us to confront how quickly the present can become a puzzle for future generations. These artifacts aren't just outliers, they're invitations to question, to wonder, and to stay humble in the face of the past's vast, uncharted depths. So what do we do with these mysteries? We let them ignite curiosity rather than certainty. Maybe the Ayad artifact is a geological fluke, or maybe it's a relic of something we've yet to imagine. Perhaps the Voynich Manuscript is an elaborate medieval hoax, or a cipher waiting for the right mind to crack it. The truth is, every unexplained object is a doorway, not just to alternative histories, but to the boundless creativity of human interpretation. That's where you come in. What's your take on these riddles? Do you think the Nazca lines were messages to the gods, or to something else entirely? Could the Baltic Sea anomaly be a glacial quirk, or is there a wilder story lurking beneath those waves? Drop your theories in the comments. History's greatest puzzles are best solved together. And if you're hungry for more mind-bending mysteries, don't forget to subscribe. From lost cities to unexplained vanishings, the past is packed with stories that defy logic, and we're just getting started. After all, the most thrilling chapter of history might be the one we haven't uncovered yet, the one waiting beneath the next shovel of dirt, the next stroke of a researcher's brush, or maybe even your own keen eye. Until then, keep questioning, keep exploring, and remember, the strangest artifact of all might still be out there, hidden in plain sight, daring us to look closer.